What up, YouTube? This is Steven, and I'm back with another video. And I wound up hearing about Zendaya Coleman speaking on colorism very recently in an issue of Cosmopolitan magazine. Um, and she's also on the cover of that magazine as well. So shout out to her. Because I think at this point, Cosmopolitan magazine has only featured 3 black women on their cover. I think it was okay. You got Beyonce, you got Rihanna, and you got Zendaya. Well, Zendaya. So yeah, 3 black women. What do those black women have in common? Can you guess? Okay. Well, if you can't guess, they all have light skin. So that's probably another issue right there. 2. But I'm going to speak on what Zendaya had to say. Zendaya, sorry. I keep on wanting to say Zendaya. Alright, so I'm going to speak on it and give my thoughts and opinions. Alright, so I got this article from longhairgirl.com, and I will link the article in the description. Alright, so the title of the article is Zendaya Coleman. I don't face the same struggles as a woman with darker skin. So that's the title. And so right off the bat there, that's a quote from her article used to be the title. So this is what she had to say. I feel a responsibility to be a voice for the beautiful shades my people come in. Okay, so apparently she feels like she wants to advocate, perhaps, for black of all skin tones. From the blackest of the black to the lightest of the blacks to the middle of the blacks, like all the black folk. All the tones and shades of black. All right. Next, unfortunately, I have a bit of privilege compared to my darker sisters and brothers. Like people question, would you listen to Zendaya if she wasn't the same skin color? And that's an honest question. Can I say that I faced the same racism and struggles as a woman with darker skin? No, I cannot. All right, so Zendaya is saying, basically, she is, I guess, admitting to colorism. And some people are like, yay, Zendaya. But really, isn't colorism a bit obvious? You know? And also, some people have issues with admitting to privileges just because it seems like it doesn't, like, kind of like when you admit to it, then it's like, then what? Like, oh, I have white privilege. Okay, but then what? What's next? And that is a legitimate, valid question. Like, what's next? And I have some ideas about what could be next for Zendaya. I'll speak on them a little bit later in this video. But yeah, she is correct. To be fair, she's correct. She does not have the same struggles as, a woman with darker skin. She does not, Zendaya, while she may check the black box, as many of us do, her struggles are different, And Zendaya herself is like, she's part white and part black. And a lot of times when it comes to the entertainment industry, they kind of put her in the black spaces. So they're kind of taking away a space that could be used for maybe someone whose look, like their phenotype, looks more in line with the typical black woman, and that is an issue. Zendaya goes on to say, I have not walked in her shoes, and that is unfair of me to say. Yes, that's true. And that was some issues people had, I think, with Jesse Williams and his speech at the BET Awards. They kind of, some people feel, are had issues because they feel like maybe Jesse Williams' struggle is not the same struggle as like a non-mixed dark-skinned black man struggle. And also some people are feeling like, well, darker skinned people have said this for years. Why aren't they in that position giving this speech? So yeah, um, some people just feel like maybe they just, you shouldn't be in the position representing black because you're not entirely black. And I can understand that because it's kind of like it is unfair to have someone in a position that's really meant specifically for you, but people will go for a different variation of black that is more palatable to them. And once they do that, then it seems like, okay, it just seems like darker people or darker skinned people are being overlooked and possibly even being replaced by lighter skinned black slash biracial people. So I can understand why people would have animosity with that right there, you know, because I don't think that is fair to have your space. Because really, black people, it seems like black people do have to sort of share a space, and I don't see white people having to do this a lot of times. Like, is is Zendaya taking white spots, like white women or white girl or white women spots away? It seems like she's taking black women and black spots away. And it's not just Zendaya, it's not just her. It's just the system in general. She also goes on to say, let's see. Let's see. I have not walked in her shoes, and that is unfair of me to say, but I'm completely behind that woman. I want to be a part of the movement and growth. And if I get put in a position because of the color of my skin where people will listen to me, then I should use that privilege the right way. Okay, so it seems like Zendaya might be on the right track here, you know, which is good. Hopefully she will be put in a position that she can sort of help be a very strong advocate for darker skinned women and just darker skinned people in general. Because really that's sort of like what you're supposed to do when you are in like a privileged position and you really do want to help people who kind of like suffer because of your privilege. Like, oftentimes we think of like privileged people and we like, oh, they're privileged, but in order for you to have privilege, other people have to not have privilege. Other people's privilege is taken away from them for you. So it's good that Zendaya she at least is saying that she will be an advocate for darker skinned people. Hopefully it's not just words. Hopefully she goes through with it, because that's really what she and other people should be doing, is advocating for the people who your privilege steps on, to be fair. Also in this article, they speak on Tinashe, the singer, and her response to colorism, which is different from Zendaya's response. I'll read Tinashe's response. And this is like in a whole nother like publication and happened earlier in the year. Okay, so then Tinashe said this about colorism. I think she sidestepped the issue, really, they say. When asked about it, she said, Again, the way I see it, obviously, if a black girl is winning, whether she is light skin, dark skin, or any type of shade in between, that should be a win for the black community, period. But it's not necessarily always perceived as such. It's like, oh, she's on the more lighter spectrum, so that is why she wins. And that's the end of her quote. So, to that, I want to say, I mean, yeah, it's good to see different shades and variations of black people winning, of course. But the thing is, it's not like that though, especially when it comes to women. I think when it comes to men, you can see a bit more variation. But when it comes to women, it seems like they're just going for the same variation. You know, the Beyoncés, the Rihannas, the Zendayas. They ain't going for like not as much. They ain't going for like the Viola Davises, the Kelly Rowlands. Um, who else? Like, it's even hard for me to even name like women right off the bat. Like, the Aisha Tylers. You know. So while it is a win for black people, kind of like a checkpoint in our book for our accomplishments, but like, what about the other people who aren't getting the shine, especially the women? Like, what about them though? It's not really like it's a win, but it's not a win too. You know, but perhaps Tinashe might not see colorism working for her because she's not as successful as, say, a Beyonce, a Rihanna, or even a Zendaya. So she may feel like colorism is like, oh, like really, like look at me, I ain't benefiting from any light skin privilege. Where my career at? No shade, but I'm just saying. But the thing is, like, we all have tough lives. We all go through our struggles. We do. But that still doesn't negate your privilege. That still doesn't cancel out your privilege. That's kind of like the thing with privilege. You can't really stop it. It happens. It's like it's so set in place and ingrained in society that you can't really stop it. You can't cancel it. You can't negate it. It's just there and it happens. But what you can do if you really want to help is use your position and your privilege to speak for those who don't have the same position and privilege that you do have. Like, sort of like, kind of like Zendaya. It seemed like she's on the right track to doing that. I don't think she's quite there yet. But also, she's 19 years old, so she probably is still trying to figure things out as far as like herself and how she fits into this kind of like the community and just the society in general. But again, tips for Zendaya, I would say, little things that she could do, like, when she is on these, not when she's on the set and she's like on the set or whatever, she could probably say, if they're looking for somebody, recommend someone who is darker skin, perhaps. But then again, to be fair, she probably would have to be in a position of authority to actually do that, I guess. Because, I don't know, it's a tough thing to say. But I will say the least she can do is to at least be vocal and continue to be vocal about the issue, Continue to sort of, when you see colorism, you see a dark-skinned person being discriminated on colorism, speak on it, Speak on their behalf, advocate for that person, Because a lot of times when darker skinned women try to speak on these issues, they get shut down so much. And some of them get shamed into being silent. But if someone like Zendaya was speaking on this, people would be a bit more open to listen. It's kind of like how it works with like when white people speak on racism versus when black people speak on racism. Like, people ain't trying to hear black people speak on racism, even though they could probably give you a much better perspective of racism. But no one wants to really hear that. But when a white person is saying it, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. So it kind of works like that. And just privilege in general. sort of works like that, really. And I know that colorism conversations are tough to have. I mean, in black communities, I think we have a lot of conversations about racism, but not so much about colorism. I'm not sure why that is, but you know, hey, in your, I just put it out there, like, if you're black in your family, has your family ever, like, if you are black and you have a black family, has your family ever really spoken about colorism much? I don't think mine's have. I don't think so. I can't. I don't know. I feel like it's little comments here and there and past, but never like maybe in long in depth conversation. If so, I wasn't present for it. Um, I don't know. I'll say no for my situation, but that's a good question because a lot of times like we speak on racism because it is really it's necessary to speak on that because you really need to know what's up. But colorism, I think we sort of shy away from that issue for some reason. I guess because it's probably considered divisive because black people are so kind of like mixed up as is. Like we're so mixed up, so it might seem like we're being divisive when we talk about colorism, which is part of the reason that I think a lot of darker skinned women get shut down when they speak about colorism. Um, Yet I don't. I feel like if a black man who's darker skinned spoke about colorism, I feel like people wouldn't shut him down as quickly though. For some, that's strange. Like, why are black women being like darker skinned black women being shut down? I don't know. It just feels like it's not quite like standard. You know, I feel like the situation is weird because darker skinned black women aren't like they get shut down when they speak on these situations about colorism, like like light skinned women are being um you know taking the place of dark skinned women you know in the media, the biracial and light skinned women are taking the place, and it just seems like the support ain't there from like the black community at times. Like it seemed like it's like, oh well, she's black too, she has a black parent, so she's black. But I mean, yes and no. I mean, yes, she would be more likely to be considered black than white, but she's actually, in fact, like she's mixed though. She's biracial, and I don't think that's fair to have someone who is mixed or biracial take the place of someone who's black. And I don't think that's fair. Um, Really, there should be a space for both, to be honest. But for some reason, it doesn't seem like there's a space for both. Um, um, so I guess this is my quote unquote community service. Like me trying to just you know advocate for you know darker skinned women and just darker skinned people in general. You know, and trying to just you know have like bring have a way to have these conversations. I know conversations about colorism are tough to have, but if we don't have them, then the same stuff's going to keep happening. And there's so much more I can go on about for this issue, like on this video, but I think I'll just bring this video to a close for the time being. And I'll say kudos to Zendaya for admitting to colorism, which, can be a little difficult to admit to, even though I know some darker skinned people are just like, really? Like, oh, wow, you have it so tough. you know, like, oh, poor baby, right? But, it can be a little difficult to admit to, because to an extent you're sort of admitting to like you have stuff that you didn't quite earn, Even though I know Zendaya probably does work hard, but it's probably saying like, you had help because privilege doesn't mean that your life is perfect, but things are sort of shifted in your favor a little bit, especially when you are like racially ambiguous like Zendaya is. When you can sort of look like a kind of like a lot of different races, but also claim blackness because you're part black. You know, and that is a privilege to be looked at and not seen as black, as disgusting, as nasty, as a sickening as that sounds. That is a privilege in an anti-black white supremacist society. That is a privilege. So again, kudos to Zendaya, and hopefully, she's young, so hopefully, throughout her life, she'll continue to, advocate for darker skinned women and darker skinned people in general. Hopefully, this is not just, some little, thing so that we can say, oh wow, and then nothing really actually comes from it. So hopefully, she'll just continue on this, path. Hopefully, you know, because a lot of times when people admit that, they have privilege, and it's like, okay, then what's next? So hopefully, Zendaya is gonna come back with what's next. She's gonna show us what's next. All right. But thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Feel free to comment. You know, it's a tough subject, but your comments are definitely appreciated. So thanks a lot for watching. Adios and goodbye for now.